Have you ever done everything right for your kidneys, cutting salt, avoiding meat, drinking more water, and yet every blood test still comes back worse than the last? If that sounds familiar, I need you to listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you may explain why so many people quietly slide toward kidney failure without ever feeling truly sick. I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and here's the uncomfortable truth most people are never told. For millions of adults, especially after 55, kidney damage doesn't come from doing too much wrong. It comes from doing the wrong things with the best intentions. Your kidneys don't scream when they're struggling. They don't send sharp pain or dramatic warning signs. Instead, they work silently, night after night, under growing pressure until one day the numbers rise and suddenly the conversation turns to dialysis. And this is where it becomes urgent. Because eating bland, avoiding protein, or being careful is not the same as helping your kidneys heal. In fact, some of the most common kidney-safe habits are quietly exhausting your kidneys even faster, especially at night when they're supposed to be repairing themselves. But here's the good news, and this is why you should stay with me. There is a way to reduce kidney stress, calm inflammation, and help stabilize creatinine without extreme diets, expensive supplements, or fear-driven restrictions. It starts with understanding what your kidneys actually need, not just what they need you to avoid. In this video, I'll show you 4 simple, affordable foods that work with your body's natural rhythms, foods that help your kidneys rest, recover, and breathe again. And I'll explain why the last one surprises almost everyone who hears about it. So if you've ever looked at your lab results and thought, I'm trying so hard, why is this still happening? Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change the direction of your kidney health far more than you realize. When we talk about helping the kidneys heal, the first thing most people think about is cutting things out, cutting salt, cutting protein, cutting flavor. But what rarely gets discussed is this: your kidneys don't heal in silence unless the body feels safe enough to repair at night. And that's exactly where the first food comes in pumpkin and lotus seed soup. Let me explain why this matters so much. After 55 or 60, the kidneys become extremely sensitive to nighttime stress. Not just physical stress, but hormonal stress. Cortisol rises more easily. Blood vessels tighten faster. And the kidneys, especially the tiny filtering units called nephrons, receive less blood flow precisely when they're supposed to be repairing microscopic damage. That's why so many people tell me the same thing: doctor, I eat carefully, but I wake up tired, my back feels heavy, and I'm up urinating 2 or 3 times a night. I remember a patient, let's call her Linda, 62 years old, retired school librarian. She followed every kidney-safe rule she found online. Very low salt, almost no protein at dinner. Large amounts of water late in the evening because she believed flushing was always better. Yet every 3 months, her creatinine quietly crept upward. Not dramatically, just enough to create anxiety. What stood out wasn't her lab results, it was her sleep. Fragmented, light, restless. Here's the key point most people miss: if sleep is shallow, kidney repair is shallow. Pumpkin and lotus seeds work together in a very specific way that modern nutrition and traditional medicine actually agree on. Pumpkin provides beta-carotene, magnesium, and gentle complex carbohydrates that stabilize nighttime blood sugar. Lotus seeds contain natural calming compounds that support parasympathetic nervous system activity, the rest and repair side of your brain. When that system is active, cortisol drops, blood vessels soften, and kidney microcirculation improves. From a physiological standpoint, this matters more than people realize. Studies on nocturnal blood pressure and renal perfusion show that even small improvements in nighttime vascular relaxation can significantly reduce filtration stress on the kidneys. In simple terms, a calmer night equals a lighter workload for your kidneys. But, and this is important, this isn't about eating a superfood, it's about timing and simplicity. When this soup is eaten early, ideally before 7 p.m., lightly seasoned, warm, but not heavy, it signals safety to the body. It tells your nervous system, we're not under attack tonight. And that signal alone can reduce nocturnal urine production, back discomfort, and morning fatigue within weeks, not months. I've seen patients report fewer nighttime bathroom trips within 10 to 14 days. Not because their kidneys suddenly became younger, but because the kidneys finally got a chance to rest instead of being forced to filter under stress. Now here's where many people make a mistake. Pumpkin contains potassium, And yes, in large amounts, potassium can be an issue for advanced kidney disease. But portion and preparation change everything. When pumpkin is peeled, cooked thoroughly, and served in a modest bowl, not a blender-sized smoothie, the potassium load stays gentle. The kidneys aren't shocked, they're supported. This is why extreme restriction backfires. When people remove too much nourishment, the body perceives scarcity. Stress hormones rise, blood vessels tighten, creatinine climbs, not because you ate something bad, but because the kidneys are exhausted. So the lesson of this first food isn't pumpkin, it's rest. It's teaching the kidneys that nighttime is not a battlefield. And before you move on, let me ask you something. Directly, have you noticed that your kidney symptoms feel worse at night or first thing in the morning? If so, leave a comment. I read everyone because patterns matter more than numbers. But here's the part, most people don't expect rest alone isn't enough. Even if the kidneys sleep better, there's another hidden burden. Many people carry fluid and metabolic congestion that quietly builds during the day. And that's where the second food becomes essential. But just knowing this isn't enough because there's another factor often more dangerous that most people completely overlook. If the first food was about helping your kidneys rest, then the second one is about something just as critical but far more overlooked, clearing the silent congestion that slowly builds up inside the body and forces the kidneys to work under constant pressure. Because here's the truth, most people never hear. Many kidneys don't fail because they're inflamed. They fail because they're crowded. I see this pattern all the time. People tell me, "Doctor, I'm not swollen. My ankles look fine." And yet they wake up heavy, sluggish, foggy, with low appetite and frequent nighttime urination. What's happening is an obvious fluid retention. It's microcongestion in the spaces between cells, especially around the kidneys. And when that congestion isn't relieved, every filtration cycle becomes harder than it should be. This is where white radish and shiitake mushroom soup becomes quietly powerful. Let me share a quick story. A 67-year-old man, former warehouse supervisor, came to me frustrated. His creatinine wasn't skyrocketing, but it refused to come down. He had done what many people do, reduced rice, increased fruit juices, and relied on light meals that were actually high in hidden potassium and phosphorus. He didn't feel sick, just constantly weighed down. When I asked him one simple question, "Do you feel lighter after you eat?" he paused. He didn't. White radish has been used for centuries for one reason that modern science now explains. Well, it supports gentle physiological diuresis without shocking the kidneys. Unlike pharmaceutical diuretics, it doesn't force water out aggressively. Instead, it improves fluid movement through the gut and interstitial spaces, reducing the load that eventually ends up at the kidneys. Shiitake mushrooms add a second crucial layer. They contain beta-glucans, compounds shown to modulate immune response and reduce low-grade chronic inflammation. In kidney health, that matters enormously. Low-grade inflammation around renal tubules narrows filtration pathways, increasing resistance. When that resistance drops, creatinine clearance improves without the kidneys needing to work harder. Here's a data point that's worth paying attention to. Studies on dietary beta-glucans show improvements in inflammatory markers and metabolic waste handling within weeks, not years. That means we're not talking about a vague wellness effect, we're talking about measurable changes in how the body handles waste. But the real magic of this soup is balance. White radish is naturally alkalizing, helping stabilize acid-base status. Shiitake provides plant-based micronutrients without the phosphorus load of animal protein. Together, they create an environment where the kidneys don't have to fight chemistry, they can simply filter. Preparation matters more than ingredients here. This soup must be simple. No bone broth, no seasoning powders, just water slow simmering and light warmth. When eaten 2 or 3 times a week, especially in the late afternoon or early evening, many people report something subtle but important. They feel lighter after eating, not heavier. And that sensation is often the first sign that the kidneys are no longer being compressed by metabolic traffic. Now let me pause and ask you directly, have you ever finished a healthy meal and still felt heavy, bloated, or tired afterward? If so, you're not alone. And I want you to leave a comment. These patterns tell us far more than a single lab number. But here's where things get even more interesting. Even when congestion is reduced and inflammation begins to calm, the kidneys still face one major challenge: how to get the protein they need to repair tissue without triggering another creatinine spike. Most people get this part completely wrong. But just knowing this isn't enough because there's another factor often more dangerous that most people completely overlook. By the time we reach this point, many people feel conflicted. They've helped their kidneys rest. They've reduced congestion and inflammation. But now a deeper fear appears. If I eat protein, won't my creatinine go up again? This fear is understandable, and it's also one of the most damaging misunderstandings in kidney care today. Here's the truth that rarely gets explained clearly. Your kidneys don't fail because of protein, they fail because of the wrong protein, eaten the wrong way at the wrong time. And when protein is removed too aggressively, the kidneys lose the very building blocks they need to repair microscopic damage. I once worked with a 59-year-old man, physically active, still working full-time, who had been told to avoid protein after a mild creatinine increase. He did exactly that. Dinner became vegetables and rice only. No fish, no eggs, no warmth. Within months, he felt weaker, colder at night, and his labs didn't improve, they worsened. Not because protein hurt him, but because his kidneys were starving while still being forced to filter waste. This is where steamed carp with ginger changes the entire conversation. From a physiological perspective, carp is one of the most kidney-tolerant animal proteins available. It provides high-quality amino acids with lower saturated fat, lower phosphorus load, and easier digestibility compared to red meat or processed seafood. That means less nitrogen waste, less acid load, and less filtration stress. Ginger plays an equally important role. It improves microcirculation, gently warms the digestive system, and reduces low-grade inflammatory signaling. When digestion improves, fewer protein fragments escape into circulation as metabolic waste. In simple terms, the kidneys receive cleaner fuel and less trash. Research on renal microcirculation consistently shows that improved blood flow at the capillary level supports better filtration efficiency, not by pushing the kidneys harder, but by allowing them to work more smoothly. This is especially important in older adults where declining circulation, not declining kidney cells, is often the limiting factor. But preparation is everything. This protein must be steamed, not fried, not salted, not soaked in sauces. When eaten earlier in the evening in modest portions, it supports tissue repair without triggering nocturnal filtration overload. Many patients notice something subtle but profound. Within weeks, stronger legs in the morning, warmer lower back, fewer nighttime awakenings. These are not cosmetic changes, they are signals that the kidneys are finally receiving adequate nourishment without being attacked. And let me say this clearly, because it matters, avoiding protein out of fear often accelerates kidney decline. The body compensates by breaking down muscle, increasing creatinine internally, and raising inflammatory stress hormones. What looks like protection becomes slow erosion. Have you ever reduced protein because you were afraid of your lab results and then felt weaker or more tired afterward? If so, leave a comment. These patterns repeat far more often than people realize. But here's where many people make their final mistake. Even with the right food, even with the right protein, the kidneys can still fail if the timing and drainage systems are wrong. There is one overlooked factor rarely discussed that determines whether all these efforts actually work or quietly collapse. But just knowing this isn't enough because there's another factor often more dangerous that most people completely overlook. By now you might be thinking, I'm doing everything right. You've helped your kidneys rest, you've reduced congestion, you've chosen cleaner protein, and yet this is where many people still get stuck. The kidneys don't improve unless the exit pathways are clear. Because healing isn't only about what goes in, it's about what can finally get out. This is where the most underestimated step comes in: gentle physiological drainage. Not forceful detoxes, not aggressive diuretics, but a slow, steady release that works with the kidneys instead of against them. And that's exactly why corn silk and plantain leaf tea becomes the turning point for so many people. I want to tell you about a woman in her late 60s who came to me exhausted, not sick, not in pain, just tired of feeling heavy. She was waking up multiple times at night to urinate. Her lower back felt tight, and every morning started with anxiety about her lab results. She had tried herbal diuretics before. They made her urinate more, yes, but afterwards she felt dizzy, dry, and even weaker. Her kidneys weren't relieved, they were shocked. Corn silk works differently. It doesn't force fluid out. It improves fluid flow. It gently reduces interstitial pressure, the subtle swelling between tissues that compresses blood vessels and slows filtration. Plantain leaf adds another layer supporting urinary tract function and calming irritation without stripping electrolytes. Together, they create what the kidneys need most at this stage space. From a physiological perspective, this matters enormously. Research on renal interstitial pressure shows that even small reductions can significantly improve glomerular filtration efficiency. Translation: when pressure drops, the kidneys don't have to push as hard. Creatinine clearance improves not because the kidneys are stimulated, but because they're no longer suffocating. Timing is everything here. This tea should never be taken late at night. Taken in the late afternoon or early evening, it allows drainage to occur before sleep, so the kidneys aren't forced into emergency filtration at 2 or 3 a.m. Many people notice their first breakthrough here, not in numbers, but in how they feel. Fewer nighttime bathroom trips, a lighter body upon waking, a lower back that finally relaxes instead of tightening overnight. And this is critical. This is not a daily detox drink. Overuse defeats the purpose. 2 to 3 times per week is enough. The goal is rhythm, not intensity. The kidneys respond best to consistency and calm, not pressure. If you've ever tried something that made you urinate more, but feel worse afterward, I want you to leave a comment. That experience tells us exactly why aggressive approaches fail so many people. Here's the quiet truth most don't realize until it's too late. Even with the right foods, even with the right nutrients, even with proper drainage, one invisible factor can still undo everything. It doesn't come from the kitchen. It doesn't show up clearly on labs, but it decides whether kidneys stabilize or continue declining. But just knowing this isn't enough, because there's another factor often more dangerous that most people completely overlook. Before we end today, I want to speak to you not just as a doctor, but as someone who has sat across from many patients who felt tired, worried, and quietly afraid of what their next kidney test might show. If you're listening to this and thinking, I'm already doing my best, I want you to know this: your effort matters. Kidney health is not about perfection. It's about small, steady choices made consistently in a way your body can actually sustain. You don't need extreme diets. You don't need fear-driven restrictions. What your kidneys need most is rhythm: eating earlier, choosing cleaner foods, sleeping deeper, and giving your body time to repair itself instead of forcing it to fight all night long. Even gentle changes, when done regularly, can ease kidney stress and slow decline far more than people realize. If this video helped you understand your kidneys better, I strongly encourage you to save this video. Come back to it. Rewatch the parts that resonated with you. Kidney care isn't something you fix in one day. It's something you learn, apply, and refine over time. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I share practical, science-based guidance here, without hype, without shortcuts, so you can stay informed and make decisions that truly protect your kidneys as you age. Most importantly, I want to leave you with this thought: having weaker kidneys does not mean you're out of options. Many people stabilize their kidney function, feel stronger, sleep better, and live full lives simply by understanding how to work with their body instead of against it. You are not late. You are not failing. You are learning. And as long as you're learning and taking care of yourself, there is always hope. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.